So welcome back to Basin Motorsports. This week, the big thing is to really get some color on the front end and the wide body kit. So I mentioned last week after I had washed it that I'm going to vinyl wrap it later on, and really what I needed was a good painted surface so that I could put the vinyl to that and it would stick well. It won't stick well to the fiberglass and the filler and all that stuff. So this week all I'm doing is really just trying to put some black on here. I'm going to use the same flat black color, the Rust-Oleum spray paint that I used on the bottom of the doors that I think with enough prep really kind of looks okay. So you can see behind already I've got the fenders off, I've got the fascia off. I've taken that stuff on and off so many darn times it's almost like second nature at this point. And I've already done the cowl. So that was literally finished. I rough sanded it with 220, hit it with some filler primer, 2 coats of that. Of course, cleaning in between to make sure it's prepped right, and then I just hit it with 2 coats of the Rust-Oleum flat black. Very simple, covers well, and it'll at least be all black when I'm done. So the fenders I'm going to leave because I want to do a little bit more on the bodywork with the glass light from Evercoat. So I'm going to work next on the hood. The white hood I had, it's okay. It's honestly okay. It's got some dings and dents and all that, and I'm working them out with a body hammer and a backing dolly, I guess you call it. I'm not a bodywork guy, so basically I'm basically working the metal, trying to get the dents back out. I need to sand a lot of the rusty spots to get that cleaned off so that I can get anything taken care of rust-wise to make sure it doesn't corrode under the wrap or the paint. And with that, I'm just going to use the Wonder Wheel and probably some 100 grit just to get a little bit aggressive so I don't have to waste time with 220. Then I'll put probably some body filler on some places, sand it, and then probably paint it, same thing. So white, sorry guys if you like the white, it's going to be black. Alright, so I think I've got the hood basically where I want. So I literally use just I call it the Wonder Wheel, but it's just my orbital sander, my electric orbital sander I bought a while ago. 100 grit disc, and I just went over everything. All the spots you see are either a high spot or a low spot. Once I hit with 100 over everything, just to make sure the whole surface was at least scuffed, I then went back with a 220 grit, just a paper in my hand, and just used the palm in a circular motion, kind of just to get anything that I missed with the orbital sander. I made sure I got, and it was mostly just the dips. The orbital sander is going to basically go right over top and not scuff that. So everything now is at least scuffed with 220, as you can see. Still nice and dusty, so I need to get that cleaned off. I have one spot of rust right in the very bottom of the hood ornament. Kind of think of it there, it's right down at the bottom tip right there. So I need to do a little bit more work on that, hit that with some anti-rust or some rust killer encapsulator, and then basically clean this off, hit it with I need to clean it off and then go to get the glass light filler that I have left and also get working on the fenders. Alright, so concerning the front fenders themselves, the bodywork really was honestly pretty close to done with everything else. All I've done now is just, you can see how dusty it is. I've just hit the surface again, just getting that gel coat very roughed up so that it'll take on some paint and primer. So I hit that with 220 also, just by hand, just in a circular pattern back and forth, just trying to get it a really good hatch pattern into the gel coat of it, just to accept some primer. So I have found just very small nitpicky things, but since I'm going to fix some filler for the hood, I might as well go ahead and fix little things on the fenders before, just to use up the filler anyway. So anything I find, just little bits, little things, getting those fixed up to where these will go right on that car after they're painted. And a lot of people may not even know it's a wide body kit. Alright, so at this point I have now hand sanded all the fenders. I've obviously now, with the green goop on the hood, the cake frosting I love to call it, is the glass light filler. Now, most of the hood honestly was in pretty good shape. I just really kind of filled in any pitting, fin holes, anything that was had a little bit of wave to it, just because I was working the metal trying to get it out. That is now sealed up, at least with the first round of filler. Fenders I touched up with the extra. Fenders are almost done. And that's it. I'm going to leave it for the night. Go change clothes, get some dinner. We'll see you when I get back. This morning I went to a car show and then to a Cars and Coffee. I was going to film those, and I started filming some stuff, but honestly there's really nothing there that excited me. When you're building something like this, other people's cars just aren't that exciting to go look at. The hood is obviously green now because it's filled with etch primer. So the hood itself, after I put on the glass light filler yesterday, let it sit overnight because it was just at the end of the day. I sanded it with 60 grit with the Wonder Wheel. And then I went back in with 220 over everything. And then in the radiuses right around kind of the cowl areas and all that, I did 220 by hand to make sure it was done. Always make sure you can use your fingers to at least feel. It'll give you a pretty good idea if it's ready to go. Once it was there, cleaned off. And remember, when you're cleaning, always wipe in one direction. If you go back and forth, what you end up doing is pushing dirt this way, and then you push it right back where you were. So always go one direction, and that way it takes off the dirt only and leaves a clean surface. So that's fill primer, or etch primer I should say, etch primer, which is green. So the first fender is done with 2 coats of fill primer. So I ended up cleaning this, painting it, and between the coats I ended up going over the surface with 150 grit paper, re-cleaning it again, wipe only one direction, and then I put the second coat on. Now, I will tell you, this is not that great. I'm going to resand it again tomorrow before I put color on, but I will tell you, if I was going to leave this straight paint and not put vinyl over it, this would no way qualify as good enough. I've got some issues right up in here, which you probably can't see on the camera very well, but it's just very, very not good quality. Thankfully, it's getting covered with vinyl, so I'm going to cop out and say it's going to get covered, so I'm leaving it alone. Otherwise, it wouldn't work very well. So that's it for the day. I also did get the 3 wheels, if you noticed on Instagram. I mentioned I needed to get some tires rebalanced, and I got that done today, so really productive day. Tomorrow's going to be more work, so putting color on this, putting color on the hood, putting more primer and maybe some color on the other fender, and then I got to work on the bumper, and that'll be the end of colorless mismatched WideFox. Okay, so welcome back to day 3. Got a little caffeine, get me started. Getting started a little early today because I finished up my writing stuff. Kind of been nibbling at it overnight so I could get it out of the way. So I'm done with that for the week. And I made a decision on the fender that I didn't put 80 hours or 80 plus hours in this body kit to worry about 15 minutes of sanding extra to get rid of some paint defects. I'm going to fix that fender today. All right, so fender was sanded. Came out okay, honestly. Not perfect, but it's actually going to be hidden by the body molding. So it came out pretty good, though. I will say that. It came out pretty good. Glad I spent the time. So the fender there has been reprimed, cleaned, and I've got the first coat of flat black on it. Couple runs in it. Got a little heavy on it. Shame on me. But I'll get those sanded back down, re-cleaned, second coat of black on, and I think that fender will be done. I just need to flip it over, really get the edges on the back side and that, and make sure it's crisply done. And that one will be done. I'll get the next one out there, primed, painted today, I think we're going to be good. Now the hood, as you can see, is now gray. So that is fill primer. So the etch came out really pretty good. I hit it with a 150 sand, literally just lightly sanded it, cleaned it, and then hit it with fill primer. So that is 2 layers of primer. I will let this cure out. I use my heat gun just to kind of evaporate off the solvents in it a little bit. I'll let that cure out for a little bit, and I'll start putting black on that. Couple dents in there. I'm still, it's honestly beyond where I'm comfortable working metal. So I left them. You will see them if you're to see it in person. You'll see the dings, and that's on me. I didn't do it. So now one thing this week that I actually was talking to somebody else about was this car and why I don't pay a lot of experts to do a lot of stuff. Kind of twofold, really. So the WideFox project itself is, one, a way for me to make content and kind of inspire you guys to do your own work. The second piece is it is an avenue for me to challenge myself to have to learn stuff that I'm not good at. Wiring, bodywork, paint, all 3 of those, I'm really not that great at. I'm just stubborn enough to never give up on them. So hopefully when you guys watch this stuff, you realize that I'm not an expert at any of this. I'm just a stubborn guy on YouTube that won't give up on a project because I don't know how to do it. Hopefully you guys are the same way, and it inspires you to go challenge yourself to improve. All right, so the hood was sanded down, I guess I'll call it, sanded with some green Scotch-Brite. And that was just to kind of knock off any high points or anything in the fill primer. And then once that was done, cleaned again, and now I've got most of the first coat of flat black on the hood. Ran out of paint out of the can and that, so I'm going to get a new can, but I did get the, I think that's the passenger side sitting outside. Got a fender outside that's done, painted, and I'm just letting it kind of cure out outside where I don't have to smell it so much. Let me show you what it looks like. So this is the, this is the passenger side fender. So after I did all the sanding this morning, cleaned it, and then I used 3 coats of the flat black, the Rust-Oleum flat black. Came out pretty decent, honestly. I just did the Scotch-Brite in between each layer of paint just to make sure everything was cleaned off. And I went heavy on the first one, honestly, and got a couple runs. So I know that's why I went with 3 versus 2. 3 is really what it needed, just to be light enough to give it a good coat without causing the runs after I sended them back out. So that's done. I'm now going to move on to the driver's side fender and get that primed, I guess I should say. Get it primed. Its bodywork is done. Next is primer. All right, so I'm jumping ahead, pretty far ahead, but I'm at the end, and I just wanted to kind of just give you guys a teaser of what everything finishes up like. So all the steps in between are it's really just about being patient with it and doing preparation on each step of the process. Now, I'll admit, every panel that I painted today, every step, had at least one problem in it. And I won't say maybe as a professional that's not common, but everything I've painted as a pretty rank amateur is that I always find some kind of problem. And the easiest way to deal with it is just be patient and take care of it. Every step, sand, resand, whatever you got to do, re-clean, always be clean, and then just paint and be patient with it. So the hood has 2 layers of the flat black. It covered pretty well compared to the fenders themselves, but the hood is done. And I've still got everything covered up because I'm going to do some extra work before I reassemble it. So both fenders are done, and the ends where it wraps around and touches the front fenders on the front bumper is done. Now, I didn't really worry about the center section of the bumper because I still need to do repairs. I still want to do some trim coloring, I guess you call it, and do all that before it's wrapped. So that'll be something I'll do later on. But I wanted it to blend so that if I take it out in public prior to me fixing all this stuff, that anybody that sees it will kind of recognize that it's kind of blended together, but it's not completely done, and that's okay. Like I said, everything had some kind of a problem with it. It's just little things like runs, small stuff. Take care of every step. You guys will have no problem with this. So I'm going to leave you at the end here with everything kind of disassembled. I need to do the headlight harness, the sway bar, and I think maybe the radiator stuff. So I need to get all that done before I put the bumper back on and get the fenders and everything else fit and on there permanently. So you guys will have to stay tuned to see how it all turns out, but tell you what, it's pretty cool, pretty good stuff. So see you next time from Basin Motorsports.